So, Strange Company, and we are back, and we're doing an interview today with Miss.
Hi, I'm Katie.
Hi, I'm Katie. And she is here today, also accompanied by my bestest friend here, Miss Amber, and we are Strange Company.
Alex. Her name's Alex.
Oh yeah, my name's Alex. My name is Alex. And that's Bethel Church of the SUPERnatural MINISTRIES. Is that?
That's
the whole thing?
Of Redding, California.
Okay, and so when it's condensed, it's what?
Just Bethel Church.
Bethel Church, and then there's also the acronym, right?
BSSM.
BSSM.
That's the church. That's the school itself.
When I hear it at first, BSSM, I think of BDSM.
Every time.
I think of every time.
Every time.
I swear to God.
And everybody who doesn't attend the church
Automatically, yeah, because it's like so one. Okay. Anyways, so we have some serious questions. We're not a part. Myself and Amber are not a part of Bethel Church whatsoever. I was raised with atheist parents, so I was told God was a crutch, and I was raised against the church, against God, and that went into my adulthood, made me a little bit confused about religion, but I ended up getting a relationship with God of my own. She has a much different relationship with God.
I have a very religious background. My grandparents were very heavily involved in raising us, and they were pastors. I married a pastor. I was very heavily, I have a relationship with God.
She's not still married to the pastor.
I am not. I am not. No, I identify as a Christian. I'm a very liberal Christian with very passionate alternative views on religion. And my general consensus is that Bethel, there's a lot of great people that come out of Bethel, but I do believe that it's dangerous for our Christian community. And so I have been spending time researching and getting to know the ins and outs of it. I want to know that how I feel is truly how I feel. So I have attended the church, and I am excited to talk to Katie more today to learn more, because I'm always open-minded and fluid in my opinions, and
we want to be informed before we talk about something.
What matters.
Right, and so here's the thing. Everyone from Bethel comes from all walks of life. But usually when you're in this small little town or small little city that we live in, if you see a foreigner, we automatically think Bethel, because we step back, like you have a foreign accent, we're stepping away because we know you're Bethel. But she goes to a photo shoot with me, and we're in the car down to San Francisco, and we've been talking maybe like an hour, and she says that she's Bethel. And my jaw...
Dun, dun, dun.
It's more like 4 hours, because it was on the way to the shoot from driving all day long.
And so she suddenly lets out that she's Bethel, and you said, didn't I pause for a minute?
So let me just say, Alex is a wonderful communicator and loves to be able to express her opinion and speaks a lot.
That is true. That is a fact.
So the moment that and why we're becoming close friends too. But when the moment I said that, I go to Bethel Church, and she was silent in the car, I really didn't know where the conversation was gonna go. It could have gone one or two ways. I'm really glad it went the way it did, but the fact that she was silent, not a single peep for probably 2 to 5 minutes, and in the car, driving in traffic, that's a long time.
Yeah, because she seemed totally legit, totally cool, down to earth, and I'm like, oh, hang on, this isn't really what my perception of Bethel is, so I'm gonna just investigate for a second. Yeah. And that led to doing this, because we sort of all came to this idea that we need to know the truth. She's got the truth. She's got a lot of information, and there's still stuff even she doesn't know about the church. But
and I mean, I'm open-minded as well too, as far as learning about different things. I come from an education background, so for me, researching and actually knowing what is real and what is something that somebody else says, opinion and fact are very different. I'm learning that with my family, but in general, I feel like I can have an open-minded outlook on different things. Even if I believe something very specific, I can still be very open-minded to hear different parts of conversation, and my mind is willing to be changed to be more realistic or more factual, and I'm fine with that. So being able to have conversation with these ladies is not closed-minded for me by any means, even though I believe something very specific, and I think that's what helps create friendship, is because you're able to understand different points of view and love people for who they are, whether you agree or not. That's not the issue. The issue is just being able to love and accept and honor.
And I like that because so often religion can become a divisive subject, whereas now I'm hoping through this our community can get along with people from Bethel a lot differently. Also that the people from Bethel might understand why we don't, why we put our hands out at a 5-foot radius.
Yeah, why we as locals from Reading see the church with a distant eye. Just because, like she was saying, people from all walks of life, we mean globally, literally from other countries coming into our city.
A lot.
For Bethel Church specifically, and then for the school, the BSSM school specifically. So that's what she's saying. We locals are seeing this huge international influence, and some of us just aren't sure.
And it
mountain
One horse
country,
town.
yeah.
And
yeah, we're literally
literally
where they filmed take my horse to the hotel road.
No,
like
we
that's
still
us.
have stands where we can tie up our horses at our gas stations and stuff.
Lovely.
And they are used by many people.
So I'm gonna let Kate take the mic here for a second and tell you guys how she became involved with Bethel, and then we're gonna cover some of these kind of myths or rumors or facts where we'll try to see about some of the opinions that people have of the church that might not be the best informed opinions. So Kate, tell everybody why you're a part of Bethel Church.
So I did not grow up in Bethel. I'm a local, been here 30 years. How you doing? Born and raised in Reading. And I have watched Bethel go from a different type of church, actually, before Bill took it over in '96, and grow to be this large church that it is today. I started in another church, and I went there I was saved at 7 years old, and what that means is I accepted Jesus into my heart when I was 7, and I was raised in this other church until I was 15. Unfortunately, through my 14, 15 years, the pastor of the church started sleeping with the women, married women, and started having us try to believe that it was okay, and then try to have us kids hook up with each other in the youth group. And so, the church broke apart. But that also tore families apart. And so my family was broken up. So I actually started searching around Reading for different churches to find more of a home. And I chose to go to Bethel. Actually, I committed to Bethel in October of 2018. So I've really just been a member for a few months, but I mean, I've visited Bethel on and off for years.
Now,
through high school.
when you say member, do you have to actually when you say commit to Bethel? What is that? Like, do you have to sign your soul away? Or,
No.
Like you say, okay, now you're do you get a certificate?
No, so what that means for me is just I have chosen to make Bethel the main church that I go to most consistently.
Just a personal commitment.
It's a personal thing.
Not
yeah.
a tangible
Like if I went to
document.
right. If I went to another church, it's not going to be like, oh, you're switching sides, you can't do that. No, it's just the personal commitment that I have chosen to say Bethel's my home church. Right?
Because now we're going to get into the nitty gritty. We're going to get into the weird AF rumors surrounding Bethel, and this is kind of the core of why the Readingites who haven't been a part of this church have our feelings about the church. So the glitter and the feathers. You were like, if if I was a pastor.
Okay, well first let me say that you said that you feel now that you've made some unfair assumptions. And I actually feel differently. I still, maybe cult is a strong word because the actual definition would be like the inability to leave and things like that. But also like false freedom the perception of false freedom can also manipulate you in a lot of ways. I still feel like not everyone from Bethel is dangerous, but in general, I have seen religious abuse, and it is important to me to call that out and investigate further because I strongly feel committed to protecting my Christian community from religious abuse, which is a really hard place to be in as a Christian because so I still feel that, but I'm here with an open mind. I want to hear more. I don't want to use words like cult
To broad span something.
to just throw that out there. I want to come here open-minded, but I am still strongly on that end. I feel very protective over
Thing that would maybe lead us to kind of question some of the things are just the experiences that we've heard come out of Bethel. And these are church members. These are people that are members that testify to these events. So, Amber, what's the issue that got you so riled up this last time?
Okay, so I think that the main thing, if you were to ask anyone in our community what's the weirdest thing you've heard about Bethel, or if they were to describe Bethel, there's been things like clucking like chickens and dancing in the aisles and flopping on the floor, but the one that we have, and it was like Bethel's glitter falling from the sky, but not the sky, the ceiling of the church. And this was...
And feathers, right? Feathers as well?
There's another feather incident, or it's the same. This is something that I haven't quite figured out. I need to like research more. I definitely like, when I was indulging in all of my YouTube conspiracy theory like nights at 3 a.m., like I definitely had like a good collection of Bethel videos for a while that I was on top of my game.
And I think from Reading, so many of us do view those videos because we're like, what the F has Bethel been up to? Like, they're for real doing some like
Or we have an
glitter.
experience where someone stops us, you know, in the street and we're like, okay, I need, like, what is going on this castle on the hill over here?
Okay.
The spiritual energy of prayer and worship had manifested this holy glitter substance. It was like gold powder.
It's called a glory cloud.
Glory cloud. Yes, a glory cloud had manifested in the church, and people had like gold on their hands, and it was unexplained, and there's a video of this.
I want to hear Katie give us an explanation for the glitter, because I'm very interested to know how that happens.
So, I want you to know that I'm coming from my own understanding, my own perspective. While I am a member of Bethel Church, I'm not necessarily endorsing myself as, hey, I'm Bethel and this is everything that I have to say is what we preach or what we document. So I'm coming from this as a very just trying to kind of understand for myself. So what Amber is talking about is in probably a few years ago, so I'm going to say 2015, 16, something like that in there. There is a video of a glory cloud being created and happening inside our church sanctuary. It's up off to the right, and what happens in the video is we start to see literal cloud formation of gold glitter, gold dust.
So it is a gold cloud then, or it's like a fog?
It's kind of more like a fog, but it's still contained as a cloud shape.
Okay.
And no, we don't have like a glitter bag up at the top of the ceiling that we trickle down or anything like that. There isn't anything besides normal everyday insulation between the ceiling and the roofing material. So what I have come to understand of what a glory cloud is because the worship that's going on with us normal people in the sanctuary with the music and just the fervor of heaven is that we have actually been able to have heaven come to earth
Lifting
and meet
the veil.
us. Separating the veil between us and heaven. And that what the glory cloud is actually material of heaven coming to meet us here at the church.
Now, would you say that the glory cloud has been a one-time occurrence, or is this something that happens frequently? You said the video had happened a couple years ago, but have you experienced that by yourself as well?
No, I personally have not experienced a glory cloud. I don't think that it was the one-time event. I think that it may have happened before. I think that it's actually happened in other countries that we have gone to and set up churches at or established. And there's been separate incidences where people have been praying. There's no glory cloud. People have just been praying amongst us members or in the healing time frames. There's like Saturday mornings we do like a healing rooms kind of service, and people will come out with gold glitter on their hands.
And that's the people who are actually touching the other person,
It
or
doesn't matter. It's
the person that
people
was healed
receiving healing or the people praying. They'll have glitter on their hands, and I've actually experienced that. I don't know how. There's just glitter on my hands, and it's not like makeup glitter, or it's not like school glitter. It's really fine. Like if you had shimmer on your face and you were to touch your face like this and you were to have your hands down, there would be shine on your hands, and I have experienced that personally. I think it was at one of the healing room things. and it's a supernatural presence, like with the Holy Spirit, that is upon us or upon you in the room because of the energy that we have created with worship and prayer.
I think it's important to bring empathy to the glitter, the glory clouds. For us in the small town that maybe hasn't experienced a lot of religious diversity, it would be really hard to imagine even believing something like that, right? Like it seems supernatural, which is exactly why they're there, right? So, but I would say there's so many religions and cultures across the world that practice things to try to lift the veil between the alive and the dead, or the alive and the other side, or the alive and whatever it is that you believe. It is not crazy that they are there in their own place doing their own things and manifesting whatever they want to manifest, or whatever happens to them in that space.
And if you are from Bethel and you have answers and you know what this is more specifically, we are all open to yours.
Yes.
All right, so put it down below. If you have information from some of the things that we're maybe misrepresenting, please.
Misunderstanding.
And I think it is very important to respect that whatever is happening in anybody's religious space, their temple, whatever it is, that we give them the respect to practice that without horrible scrutiny and public and that sort of thing. But that's where the other side comes in, of that they are also invading the outer space of other people, and that's where the conflict has come in. But I still believe that everybody deserves the respect, and if that glitter sounds crazy to you, that's fine, but that's what religion is believing the unbelievable. So
Yeah, we were not forcing a manifestation of that specifically. We were not conjuring.
All right. Lay down.
okay, you were saying.
Yeah, so
One of the things that I was privy to hearing was at a party, and we were out in the backyard, and the adjoining neighbors were a Bethel group of girls. Is the idea behind what these guys told me, which is that Bethel girls take it in the butt. Those were literally their words. Bethel girls will take it in the butt, and because then they can still be a virgin. And so what?
So
the poop hole loophole.
The poop hole loophole is what you're talking about. Okay.
Please elaborate.
Let's do this. Okay. So okay, I have to say that I was letting the girls know that it's not Bethel girls specifically who think this way. I've learned about it through high school. I've learned about it from other sex educational things that I've been a part of.
Runs in the religious community.
It probably does, just for this reason. So some people think that if you have anal sex, you can still be considered a virgin because you're not having vaginal sex. And that is something across the board through sex education, through different types of Christian community circles. The fact
maybe that's coming more out of school, which you weren't a part of, right?
Maybe, but in general, it's not.
It's more of a Christian thing.
It's not specific to Bethel in general. It's
Bethel,
not even specific to Christian in general. It's
gonna
specific
be
to
anyone that shames losing your virginity in general.
Right.
Yeah.
This is what's happening.
And so I think it's important. Specifically, Bethel is a what kind of church?
we're specifically non-denominational towards Christianity.
Now that we've elaborated on this poop hole loophole, I gotta give it to you girls out there doing it in the back door, because that is not comfortable.
Especially before you've ever experienced it in the right hole.
Yeah,
like
you totally need to put the right hole first. Like,
don't let this determine your entire view on sex either.
Yeah, no.
This is probably terrible.
Okay, so there is a huge organ that will give you lots of pleasure. The back door, maybe not so much. So don't be scared if you did do it in the back door that real sex after marriage would be that painful, because it's not going to be. Okay, let's just get that over with.
And virginity is shit.
And by no means is she saying that your virginity is shit. But sex is pretty great. I will say then,
I'm saying your systematical oppression on women and their virginities, and the definition of such is shit.
yeah, I will agree with that. Katie's had a child out of
I'm
wedlock.
biased. I'm either way.
Right? Did you?
I am, okay, so I have a child out of wedlock, and my child is out of wedlock as well. Not by my choice, I will say that, but
Why is it
love
called
him anyway.
wedlock?
Because anything that you do in the wedding lock of marriage,
V-lock.
it's an agreement. So it's an agreement. It's a contract. You're locked into that contract for said period of time, which in marriage is
I
supposed
can
to
barely
be
handle my
forever.
AT&T contract. Like, ugh. Gosh, so things in my perceptions have been built upon interactions in the city. So in our city, we do have a huge Bethel presence. Bethel is in our city council, Bethel is in everything. My own interactions have been walking in Kohl's and having a girl case me for a couple of aisles where I'm like feeling a little uncomfortable, like what is this girl staring at me for? And this is not a sole like interaction, this is happening all the time, where they'll follow you and then they'll come up, and she asked me if I was having problems with my parents, and that's kind of a large, open, vast question. Of course I was at the moment. And so she began to like ask me to pray, and that was a weird interaction of itself. And that's happened since with my brother who has cerebral palsy. They'll want to pray on him. I've come out of a grocery store once. Yeah, they'll like come in like hordes. I don't know. It's a little bizarre, and it's off-putting, and it makes the community very standoffish. And so this is what I want Bethel to understand, is that for those of us that don't participate in Bethel, for us to be kind of pursued,
Approached,
yeah, and it feels like a pursue. It feels like we're like the victim of this like kind of force that comes in on you and makes you feel a little uncomfortable. And so I think that for myself personally, it's just been so strange. And there's been a time where I walked out of a store and these kids are just kind of like rolling all over, and I'm like, are these kids drunk? And I said those words, are you guys drunk? And they said, drunk on God. And they
Holy
were
Spirit,
back.
yeah.
So they were drunk on the Holy Spirit. And it's just so, I think those things, if you're going to be Bethel Church, like keep them in the church. Don't only associate with Bethel people when you go out in town, because we'll go into a restaurant and we hear like one little table just saying Jesus, 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 Bethel, Bethel, Bethel. And then we know like, okay, maybe this is only a Bethel restaurant. I'm not coming back. Or maybe you guys could interact and talk about anything else, like not normal. I won't say normal people. That people who are maybe not a part of a church, or even people who are a part of a church, other people that are in church communities around here can go out and have interactions that are not based around pursuing religion. And I guess my question is, why can I not have an interaction other than with you? How come I cannot have an interaction with one person from Bethel without being tried to pursue me about coming to God?
Nothing else exists outside of it.
Right, and so why can't they come up and say, hey bud, like, let's be friends, or like...
Which only reiterates the belief that, like, they're robots, right? Like,
yeah, and so we do feel that, like, that's where we get this impression that it's cults, that it's like, you're kind of like creeping into us, and
But I have a
strange.
different interaction. I have worked with many Bethel students. I have helped deliver a lot of Bethel babies. I've been like involved with a lot more Bethel people. Our midwives here, who I'm involved in our birth community, our midwives are involved in the Bethel community. They're wonderful. In fact, like there's also the hypocrisy of the fact that like so many Bethel kids are out there. They do all the drugs, they do all the things, but then they are also in the morning preaching, you know, the gay revival classes. But I know what they were doing last night, you know. So it's hard. It's hard to.
Right.
It's hard not to.
It's hard to say like don't be a homosexual and pray the gay away, but also
Drop acid.
But also right. But also
acid
you
brave.
also you girls take it in the butt, and that's fine. But
Yeah.
not the guys. Like don't take it in the butt, and girls don't like finger each other either. Like that's out of control. So I guess that's where like I'm trying to understand the double standards, Katie.
Yeah,
I'm trying
so
to understand.
Let me
There's
talk
so
about
much
a couple of
coming out of
things there.
Bethel. So many different things.
Okay, so yes, but because of that, so we have to keep in context that Bethel is global. That means people from all over different understandings of how they were raised, what's acceptable in their country, their customs, our social norms, not even just America, California, but Redding specifically. It's all vast and varied. And so we have to take that into consideration when we're talking about these different types of topics. So a couple of the things that you said and a couple of things that you said I just want to talk about for just a second. So as far as the dropping acid one night at a party and then preaching about something in the morning. I want you to know that our pastors are not necessarily doing that. She's talking more specifically, I think, about the students. And look, we all have free will. We're humans. We're all going to make mistakes. None of us are going to be perfect. Even pastors, even people that love Jesus and nothing else in the world matters, are human and are going to make mistakes and are going to make decisions that could be questionable, or decisions that are going to say, but you go to church. And we're like, yeah.
But when
So,
you put yourself in the position,
I understand that.
they're
And
literally putting themselves
you
out there.
should live by the standards that you are preaching, like live what you preach, right? That's the whole thing. But again, that's the only thing really that I can say about what
Well,
you're
I think,
talking
like,
about
in
is we're just human.
In the
You know,
church
it's
community,
not right or wrong. It's just
there's that grace and forgiveness for everyone. And I would say that the church community, like the people who attend church every Sunday, you do have that grace and freedom to just be as human as you want. But we do hold like our pastors to a standard, correct?
yes.
Our youth, I mean, people are kicked out of these higher up positions in the church for these scandalous things, right?
Sure.
So we hold our elders to a higher standard than the church community. The problem with Bethel community is that they put themselves in a position of almost being pastors, because they are out there in the streets, they are preaching to our people, but then they are being the most hypocritical. And so don't put yourself out there where you are telling people how to live your life and then
Don't live by that.
and then being upset when we call you out on your shit. Like,
Yeah.
we can't do that. We
So,
can't do that.
so
There's
the whole
accountability.
thing, yeah. So the
And you
whole
have to be
thing with
accountable
like
for your community.
and yourself,
And
like,
yourself.
in general as people. But the whole thing with like the grace and all of that, yeah. But
Because you can be
But
a sinner
also,
your whole life and then ask
you
for
are,
forgiveness
yeah.
and because we are
here's,
sinners, right?
Here's the thing, like, get your shit together. Sorry, get your stuff together. Like, yes, there's grace. Yes, there's forgiveness. But if you're gonna choose to continue doing that crap, you're just pushing the
maybe
grace.
just stay
Like,
home, or like tell the
come
group,
on.
like, I'm gonna stand
you
off in
have
this
to
corner
get to
for a
a
second.
point, yeah, where you have to come to a realization that the choices and decisions that you make reflect not only on you, but your family, your community, and your church if you go to one. That's basis for everybody. So what she's saying specifically, like for Bethel people, like if you are doing those things at parties and then be expected to go to church and have it all be forgiven, like, dude, come on, have some understanding of my choices and decisions affect other people. Whether I choose them to affect other people or not, it just does.
So what about the ones who have been accountable, who are approaching people outside? Like
Yeah,
when I was
okay, so
talking
do
about,
that. Yeah, for
what's
sure.
your opinion on that?
Can I talk about something that you said to me in the car about
Yeah.
your experience
Yes.
at healing rooms?
Yes.
Okay. Man, so this has happened, I think, a bit too often. And I will say that, again, I've never been part of the School of Supernatural Ministry, BSSM, specifically school students that are doing more of what she's talking about.
Yeah, I've only seen young people or like
Yeah.
foreigners. So.
And or also it could be part of the youth ministry, which is separate than the church or separate than the school.
Okay.
It
In
could
the
be
school,
youth
they
ministry.
are encouraging their students to go out and do this.
Seeing somebody healed of something like cancer. I mean, we've had people from our church and also not from our church that have come to our church for healing, specifically of, let's just take the topic of cancer, where they've gone to the doctor, they have the x-ray, they have the tumor, and then they get prayed for and healed. They go back to their doctor, have a secondary x-ray, and the doctor says, I have no explanation for why you don't have a tumor anymore. Oh, and you're cancer free. I have no explanation for that, and then I don't understand why people who have received prayer the exact same way, the exact same type, the exact same time, it could even be in the same actual service itself, go back and they still have a tumor, they still have cancer. I have no explanation for that. That's a God thing. That's something you ask him at the gate, say, why was this grandma saved and my grandma wasn't?
With the people coming and approaching us in public, trying to break in through boundaries that probably a lot of people in Reading, we're mostly a conservative area town, so those who kind of seem leery of the Bethel Church are because we've been raised with very conservative views. We put our walls, we don't want anybody touching us in public. Do you think it would be more effective to just allow people to come to your healing ministries, your services, and put that out, rather than having people go out and approach people and make this weird like rumor mill in Redding, California, that does your guys' church ultimately no good. It's just pushing people away, in my opinion.
Sure.
Or do you find that like they're like, yeah, we went out and we grabbed like 20 people and that's why it's effective? Do they have numbers that say like this is an effective way of going? Because I honestly just like seeing kids like run like going like this, it's just so out there for a town like this. So I see and I understand why people push you guys away.
Sure. So I think some of this topic is a little bit kind of maybe in the Revelations chapter of the Bible. The supernatural is weird. It's not normal as far as what we humans consider to be our standard of normal. If anybody has ever read Revelations, it's very hard to grasp. There are different types of creatures, and this is just the Bible itself. These are things that God said are going to happen when Revelation happens, when the end of life and God comes back happens. We don't see what God protects our eyes from through the veil that we were talking about. If we were to see, if the veil were torn, there's incidents of this in the Bible. If the veil is torn, we can see the supernatural fight that is happening around us all the time. So because of that, and we as Bethel Church specifically are trying to tap into that supernatural more often, when we come to a conservative town like Redding, for example, and we're trying to show the supernatural, us Redding people don't get it, don't understand it, because we're not there at that level of understanding of what supernatural is.
Now, do you think a big city would be different? Like, do you
No,
think
I don't really, honestly. I'm
It would
just
just
saying
be
Redding in
strange
general
across the
because we
board,
are
right.
more conservative here than, say, San Francisco or Los Angeles or New York or Atlanta or something like that. I think it's across the board because it's a completely different level of Christianity that we all never really grew up with. So, so approaching people on the street or approaching people at our lovely Sundial Bridge is just weird and strange in general because, like she said, we are more of a not touching community of conservative people. Whereas supernatural, it's not a boundary for the supernatural. It's a boundary for human and interaction. People in India are either this far away or this far away. I can't tell, I don't remember the difference. But there's spatial awareness for all different types of cultures and religions and types of people. This is comfortable for us. Other people have to talk like this. Other people can there's just spatial awareness, okay? So the supernatural, that's not a thing. And so as far as the consent, I think that it could be a bit more observed if there were to be a little bit more consent of either touching or saying, praying for someone. As far as the treasure hunting is, so what treasure hunting is, I have come to understand is the term used for a group of, I believe, BSSM students who have who get together and say, okay, who do we want to pray for today? Who do we want to go out and touch in our community? And the word touch is not physical touch, it's spiritually touch. Although, yes, laying of hands is a thing that we do. And that's part of where this whole consent thing is like, can I touch you to pray for you? No? Okay, cool. Can I still pray for you? Sure. Okay, great. That kind of interaction, I think, is something that we could maybe improve on a little bit more of understanding of cultural, spatial awareness.
if you're a BSSM student, you've pretty much decided that your life is full of supernatural and that's really all there is to talk about, do you think?
I don't know. I'm not from the school.
So again, if you're from the school, answer, please. Do you guys have anything else to talk about? Because that would be great.
I told you, they do acid at night.
And that's again not necessarily truth or rumor. We're just projecting.
So treasure hunt is like, okay, so I feel like, so I'll just pretend that I'm a student and that I'm going to go out and do a treasure hunt. This is from my perspective. This is not, I've never seen the mandate of what they do. This is just what I come to understand of what it is. So we're sitting here, we're like, okay, who are we going to pray for today? And I feel like I see a middle-aged man with a cane and he's walking with his daughter. And so I'm going to go out and I'm going to see if I can find that image that I feel was given to me by the Lord to pray for this person.
Now, is it one person deciding that and then sending everybody else on the treasure hunt?
No.
Or is it every single person is supposed to like manifest their own idea of who they should save each time?
It's not necessarily saving, but yes, it's individual. Okay, how do you hear from the Lord, and what are you seeing? Like, who are you seeing to pray for? Or maybe there's a couple of people that you see, like sneakers, red shirt, and a ball cap or something. I don't know. It's something that God's giving you a picture about.
And I think
about.
healing is a word that like also pushes us away in a large sense, because the skepticism behind the word healing kind of relates back to people mocking it in a way, like, oh, you're healed, and like the charlatans of the past who maybe have done these things where they're lying about healing people. That doesn't preemptively lead to a society that believes in healing. It's so hard for me to wrap my mind around this, like healing, this idea that you go to a service on Saturdays and it's different than the Sunday service, but it's a healing specific service. And I've attended it. I've gone. I went during my child custody debate to try to see if there was something that I was willing to do anything for my daughter to get her. And so I'm like, if I'm not beyond God. And so I go to this church, and it was admittedly very bizarre. And at the end, we went through our little room to room. They take you through different rooms and allow you to kind of see different things and hear different testimonies. Throughout that time that we're moving from room to room, before we even get to the healing room, people are already, and from the minute we go into the hallway, from the minute we get there and we go into the hallway, someone has been touched by Jesus and their leg is healed. Hallelujah! Tell me about this. Tell me tell everybody what
the testimony of
it. Tell everybody what God did. And then at the end, when we do get to this healing room, and I explain that I need help in the realm of custody, I was told, well, do you have a physical ailment instead? And I'm like, well, I mean, I guess my shoulder hurts sometimes. And then I am then laid hands on my shoulder and made to close my eyes, and they pray on me. And they stop and they say, like, did you feel it? And I'm trying. I was literally trying to connect with that God that I feel I have a spiritual relationship to. And it just seemed almost wasteful. Like I wanted to be healed towards custody. I didn't want to be healed for my shoulder hurting. And when he asked me, does your shoulder feel better? I told him the truth, which was no, it didn't. And then he enlists the help of another woman who comes over and then prays on me. And then they ask the second time, has this healed you? And I felt a large pressure to just be like, yeah, sure. And that's what I did. I just said, like, yeah, it's better, so I could leave. Because it was just...
And then all that does is encourage the results that their healing is working. It's like,
but at the same time, right?
It's the same as interrogation.
At the same time, there's like pressure to say, like, yeah, it is working, because all at the same time around the room, other people are being healed, and then they're going around and putting them on big screen TVs saying, like, okay, tell us what happened with you. Are you being healed? Did you just get healed? Did you just get healed? Tell everybody what the Lord just did for you. And here I am, like, wanting kind of a different outcome from what I had gone there for to begin with, but then saying, okay, it would be nice to have my shoulder stop hurting. Like, it's hurt for a good long time. And I really put that effort into, like, believing in it and hoping that my shoulder is going to get better, and they lay their hands on me and they heal me, and it's not healed. And so I wanted to experience that for myself. I think that the topic of healing is just very off-putting to Reading society in general.
But it's like that with everything too.
Yeah.
Whether you're going to go get your chakras aligned, or you're going to go get Reiki done, or you're going to go get healing from Bethel, like, it's going to feel that pressure to please that person because they are trying to help and that influence. But imagine a church that large and the influence that large. And
oh yeah, and these are people, like, when I went to that service there that day, there were people from China, there were people from Russia, there were people from Mongolia who are, I don't even know if that's his place. Is that a real place still?
Mongolia.
Okay. I don't know. Okay, so there was just people from all over the world there. And it blew my mind. It's like, okay, this is deeply ingrained in people all over the world, which also leads to verifying what you've been saying this whole time, which is that Bethel can't really be held responsible for the traditions and the cultures of all these other people that come from all around the world and maybe have different ideas on what's acceptable and what's not. I just feel like it's the church's responsibility once they take those people in to train them and educate them on the kind of
On
people
our
they're
community.
We would
Right.
do that. We would do that to our missionaries that we send out to another country. We would teach them their norms, and we would respect their social
Right.
norms.
I agree
Absolutely.
with that, and I think that is something that we do when we go out. But I think that it could be a little bit more sensitive to those that come in.
Yeah.
I agree. To talk on what Alex was mentioning, when she told me this, what had happened with her at the Saturday morning healing service, my heart ached for Alex. It really did, because I don't think that the experience that she had was just. I don't know the person or people that were praying for her. I don't know what their thought was of approaching Alex, or, okay, yeah, that's great, but I want to pray about this for you. Like, I don't think that that was a just thing on their part. It's really unfortunate. Like, I was really sad for Alex, and that was her experience with us, because for me,
You're making
that's
me
not
sad.
what it
I'm like
is.
looking
I'm
at your
so sorry, babe.
I'm like, I'm
Like,
sad now. Like,
my
about
heart
it.
hurt so much when she told me that, because I have gone through, and this is not why, but I will say that I have also gone through a custody exchange situation that I just have a lot of empathy and sympathy for. But my point is, coming from somebody, a member of Bethel Church, and my experience that I have at Bethel Church, and the reasons for why I go there, to have her say that she was coming for something very specific and emotional, or a heartstring healing, and somebody was like, oh yeah, that's great, but I want to do this instead, just broke my heart for her, because that's not what it's about. That is not what the healing rooms are about. It's not only for physical healing that I have come to understand. I have had emotional praying. I have had my heart set on something specifically as well. And I have had people say, okay, well, does anything hurt in your body? I'm like, yeah, dude, my heart is hurting. Like, my brain is hurting. My emotions are hurting. And I have received spiritual and emotional prayer as well, not just a physical thing.
And you felt that that was effective?
I mean, yeah, it does. It does help, of course, when anybody's going to be empathetic and sympathetic to your situation, especially in a prayer type way where you know that you can connect with God and you can connect on a spiritual level, and know that it might not be healed that second of prayer, but it's another touch in healing. It's like another little, I guess you could call it like a dose, if you were to have it like if you were to have a medication, the medication doesn't work the first time you take it. It's after you take it for 10 days, it's been in your system. It's like every prayer is helpful. And when she told me that experience, it just, and actually I shared that experience with my mentor, and my mentor, who also attends Bethel, was also saddened by that interaction for Alex, because again, that's not what it's about. You're coming to a church, you're coming to a place of belief for something specific, and that was your experience is just so like a pull out from the rug. It's just so downhearting, you know.
Think about how devastating it is to just flippantly offer healing to just whoever, whenever, and any time that doesn't work out, you're not just, oh well, it didn't work today. That person went home believing that they don't actually have a relationship with God. Maybe God doesn't actually exist, and there's 1,000 more questions that have been put on their life and their hearts, where for you were just practicing your schooling. And so I think that there's accountability there, that if you're actually wanting to bring people to Jesus, like chill. You can't just offer healing to somebody who has no religious background at all. Like, these words matter, and you leave people confused. You're not doing any good.
I understand that. And then something that you were saying too, like, we also can't be responsible for how your takeaway is.
Well, you
At the
can
same
when
time.
you've approached me. Like, and I'm
Yeah.
stuck in the position, and then I have all these feelings.
Yeah.
Absolutely 1,000% that's their fault. No.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand that. But it's
Because that's
like,
just victim blaming. In that way, you know what I mean? Like,
And I understand what Amber's saying about victim blaming, and I will elaborate just this little bit. I had a question that I directed at Katie about my brother specifically having cerebral palsy. Now, he can't communicate vocally. He cannot communicate at all at this point in his life. He has no communication. So he has no way to say, again, consent or that he has these beliefs in his heart. Now, if he were to be healed, if I were to take him to a service and he were to not be healed, the idea, and this is not your understanding of it, because I looked this up. This is Bill, the person who started this program, and how he believes healing works. And that is that the person has to want the healing on their end as well, and they are supposed to be just as willing as the person to put their hand and heal. They have to want that. They have to need it. They need to be receptive on their end. And so my question was,
that's the responsibility.
how could you know? And so if you come up to heal my brother and he's not healed, how could you say he didn't want that in his heart? And how can you say that he's any less worthy than someone who verbally says that he or she wants it in their heart? And I feel very strongly about that. And so I proposed this question to her, and it was interesting. You talk about it again and explain to me in the way that you wrote about the deepest trenches of the rainforest, where they have people that have no access to a Bible to even know of God, right? So how do these people that don't know of God get saved? How? First, the healing of my brother.
So with someone like her brother who is not able to communicate at all to say, yes, I accept Jesus in my heart, or yes, I want this healing. Duh, who wasn't going to want a healing for something that they've been ailed with for a long time? Unless you don't, that's fine. But,
right, but my brother, he obviously would be like, yeah, I would totally not like to be a vegetable anymore.
Yeah. So, for me, that is a God question, and that is something that I cannot explain. That goes back into the cancer thing of, well, they were healed, they weren't healed. I think part of it is how God wants to use this person in their life to bring glory to other people.
Right. Obviously, my brother has influenced my life in a grand way, and my ideas in life were shaped greatly because of that. And so maybe that's largely attributed to my mission of like putting information out there and helping people. Like maybe that was
Awareness.
God's idea for my brother. But to say that just sounds so like, yeah, my brother was he was God's way of motivating me. Like, what a shit way to motivate
Because your
someone.
motivation is like this small of importance, where his entire life is this
Right,
big.
and I'd
So he
rather
had to
not
suffer
have.
this
I'd
big
rather
for you
not
to
be.
learn that
I'd rather
small.
not be a celebrity, and I'd rather not be like encouraged to go on TV and do all these things. Now I am, because I know that with money I can help my brother. But largely, I don't believe in healing, and I don't believe that anything will help my brother other than the money it takes to put him in the right kind of healing environment, the hospital, etc. So. You're saying it's God's relationship with that, and that's just hard for me to get on board with.
It's hard for me to understand too, because that's a part. This is a part of faith or relationship with Christ or understanding of the Bible that I'm not fully versed in, and I really don't think even the best theologians who studied this type of thing specifically really can be in, because they're not God. We don't know God's reasonings for this or that. It's His deal. I think the best thing that we can do, being here and knowing that we don't understand, is knowing that we don't understand, and still loving and still being hopeful for, or still praying for the things that we believe are good, right, and true. So for you to have a soft heart of understanding that your brother may or may not be healed, and that's not an answer that we're going to be able to have, would be where you can have rest in. As far as saying like healing from church or things that Bill has said, I don't know. Go ahead.
I want to say one thing. In my own Christian journey, I fall on this because I was raped as a child for many years. And I did pray to God in those moments. I asked Him to stop it, and He left a little girl struggling. Okay, so anytime that I come to I do believe in God, I do have a relationship with God, but my anger towards God always comes down to that moment. I have not found that answer. But something that I can offer Alex, I don't know why God doesn't heal certain situations, but I will say that I do believe that there's things in the world like illness and disabilities and things like that, because I do believe that if we didn't have things where people needed other people, we wouldn't be together.
We wouldn't have the humanity that we should
We
have.
all we are all missing pieces, and other people have the pieces that fill that, so that we can work together and actually be humans together. And so, like with your brother, and that's devastating. It's devastating that he has that life that, like, he got the short end of the stick. It feels like, right? But also, like, and I don't know anything about your brother's life, but I work in like the caregiving field, and sometimes you wonder, like, these people are just sitting in here, like, this is their life, are they wasting their life away? But like, we have jobs and we have people who work together to like bring them smiles every day, and like there's a community that's built around it, and events that happen locally, and like,
I mean,
he work together.
Right.
I love God, but I still don't understand. Everybody tells me, oh, all of the trauma that you experienced as a child is what made you better today. And I'm like, well, fuck that. Like, I could have been a great human without that. Like, thanks.
Right.
Thanks for that one.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so it is. But no matter what your religion or culture is, you're going to run into those.
That's where my mother, she would get so mad when someone would say, God doesn't give you more than you can handle. And she was like, actually, God clearly did. What happened in these specific instances where they chose where Bethel Church chose to, where members of Bethel Church, not the church themselves, where they had in instances turned to faith and prayer rather than call the necessary
emergency people.
Emergency.
So, and then even within that, I would say that it's actually the school too, which is different than the church a little bit. So the school being BSSM, Bethel School of Supernatural Ministry. An incident that happened quite a few years ago, I want to say 2010, maybe a little bit more than that, where a group of kids were hanging out at one of our cliff places off of Bocelli.
Or they jump like the cliffs.
Yeah, but this is not something that you jump off of into
Okay.
the water. It's way too high. It's just a viewing point that you can see the river, but there's no guardrail or anything there. It's just literally an open cliff. And some kids were out there. I don't know if they were drinking alcohol or not. I kind of want to say that they were. Don't really know, which can impair your decision-making skills. But anyway, what happens is a young man falls off the cliff to his death. And
Not immediately.
not
though, right?
immediate death.
He's still
what
alive.
happens is the man is still alive. He's still coherent. He's still able to have conversation. And what happens is the other group of kids come down and start praying for him, which is great, but also emergency should be called, and no emergency was called at this particular incident.
And so when did they
kids-
finally get him to the doctors?
Oh, I don't even know.
So, but
I
he
think
did.
that
He did die.
I think he
at
died
the
on
hospital, right?
I thought
They
he
said
died on
something
scene.
about 15 minutes of no emergency care.
That
Is
was
what that
for
video-
that was for the asthma, which I was going to talk about.
Okay, so yeah, so there
there's
have been
something
more than
different.
one instance with the
Yeah.
like prayer thing. So,
So
tell us
I
about
think what I remember the case saying is that the kid actually died on scene because the other group of kids that was with him tried to pray him back to life and pray for his healing instead of calling emergency services, which I do not agree with, and I don't think that the church condones, number one. Number two, there has been a secondary communication that has come from the school and the church about this particular topic, this particular incident. I'm sure you can find it on Bethel.com or Bethel.org or something like that from Reading or Bethel TV, where they do address this situation. But obviously you need to have common sense. Common sense, people,
But it's
common
right, but
sense.
like they keep having
So-
no common sense.
Exactly.
So that's why we think the things that we do. So give us the
So
other
again,
example.
that could possibly be a cultural norm thing. Our thinking of common sense could be completely different in another country where they may not even have an emergency service company to call. Who knows? I don't know. And I don't know these group of kids where they're from. If they have an emergency number to call, if they know 911 is our nation's thing, I don't know. Regardless, what happened, the kid fell down, was prayed for only, no emergency services were called until after he died. The kid died, and he died. Another situation is, I just recently heard a video about a newscaster radio guy talking about a young man was suffering an asthma attack and some, I believe, Bethel people approached him and started praying for his healing instead of calling emergency contact. And the kid went about 15 minutes in a full-blown asthma attack, could not breathe, could not take in any oxygen into his body. The story goes that somebody eventually had the common sense to call emergency services. Emergency services came, he went to the hospital, and he had about 15 minutes of no oxygen to the brain, which caused brain trauma issues in the hospital for him, and then he later died of lack of oxygen to the brain complications and problems that could have very easily not have happened or happened very much less had emergency contact been done in the beginning of understanding that this is an emergency. This isn't somebody just forgot to take their inhaler. Like, there needs to be some type of understanding of emergency situations where the first thing you do, I was a lifeguard for 3 years, the first thing you do is you appoint somebody to call 911 and then you start resuscitating.
The church is responsible for bringing all of these people from all of these different cultures to Reading, okay? If you're bringing these people from different traditions, different cultures, different ways of life, you should be teaching them what we do here in America, that we have 911, that we do call emergency services. If that would have been an intervention that had been done already, those people could still be alive today. And that pisses me off. That pisses me off that that was not an education that was made so abundantly clear. I'm a corpsman, or I used to be a corpsman in the military, and first responder is a huge deal. You're taught what to do on scene. If these kids are out and about, and you know they're going to be doing things all over the town and all over the city and anywhere in their life collectively where kids be doing some stupid shit. They're gonna die, okay? They're going to put themselves in risky positions. Teach them. You're responsible as Bethel the church for all of those children, no matter what culture they come from, no matter where they come from. You should be teaching them what we here in Reading, what our beliefs are, why we have our walls up, approach us differently, and teach everybody in your entire church how to respond to an emergency appropriately. Sorry, that just really, that made me a little upset.
I definitely understand that, and I definitely agree, specifically if they're going out to be doing this, that there's other precautions that can come up that we need to be aware of. And I don't know if this is church specifically or if this is parents in your home teaching your kids, like, there's an emergency, you call 911. When you call 911, you can still pray. That's always an option.
Still pray.
But emergency needs to be something that is dealt with first and foremost. We're human beings. We are people that we can die. We're mortal beings, you know.
And I'd be interested to know the legality of what the parents of these children were able to pursue, because I would sue the shit out of the church. I'm sorry, I just would.
I understand that, and I think I think that they do address that in the rebuttal conversation that Bethel approached for these specific instances. Again, that would be information that you'd have to kind of look for through Bethel media and
yeah, if you know more about this case, please inform us. The Bethel BSSM, right, so a trade school, but then you don't get out with a trade.
But yeah, you don't actually get a doctrine in theology or anything of the such. You get a certificate in supernatural ministry.
So if you
which
come
you
out
can
of
only use within Bethel, pretty much.
So if you come out of that, how many years? If you've come out of and you've been the BSSM's,
You may get a job.
student of the year. How many years did you do? How many years do they?
1 to 3.
So usually what it is you do 3 years if you want to go into internship, which is to help get you the job that you're going into the internship for. So the first 2 years are to kind of calibrate yourself with your own internal healing of the things that you've gone through for your whole life up until that point, and then also connecting more in-depthly with the supernatural. Then from there, within that, you kind of figure, okay, am I going to go on to third year? If I am going on to third year, what do I want to specialize in? And then you intern with someone from church with that thing. So if you want to do music, you want to do art, you want to do business, you want to do drafting, you want to do medicine, like there's different people that you can partner with, and then you basically shadow them for your 3rd year, and then you get to be able to have a position
What would be
in
an
that.
example of like, how would they get involved in medicine, for example?
Like if like a home care situation.
Like where they're the midwives almost, like where they're
Something,
midwife.
yeah.
Okay,
something
so
like that.
but how would that help that at all? It doesn't actually
So
help your
if
schooling,
you
right?
so for let's take this example. So if you wanted to be
Midwives.
a midwife, you would partner with someone that attends Bethel Church that is somebody named as an elder or as a pastor of midwifery in our church, and and then you would shadow that person for your 3rd year in all of what they're doing. You would experience, you would help births, you would help do the medicine, you would help do the setup. I don't know a lot about midwifery, but
yeah, which
you would
is
help
crazy
them.
because
So-
to be able to get into that position is all educational based.
Right, and so here's
I'm sure
here's
you would
something.
have to do your actual like schooling for that. I'm just
So-
saying, like in general, that's what the interning would be. You
So
would
it's
have
to
to
help
go
you
through
have your
that.
career in a more spiritual way. So it's like adding a spiritual connection to your career because
But isn't it essentially just like if you are going to pursue any of those things, so you go through this program and you want to be a doctor, you just tacked on 3 years of
that's what I'm wondering. if how even-
non-medical school on top of your 8 years or so that you have to do to become a specialized doctor. And I wonder then too, if you decide year 2 that you're not going to go on to year 3, did you just waste 2 years of your life, and how much money, how much the
I
school
have no
costs
idea what the tuition
thousands
is.
of dollars.
People
And
come
who-
from all over the world to do it, so we know that it's a significant amount, including they're going to have lodging and a job while they're here. And
Right, I worked in
let's
massage
get
envy
into
with
the
people who were
economic-
going to the school, so they were earning money while going to the school to pay for tuition. So if anybody knows how much the tuition is, I'm sure you're out there because you're paying the tuition.
I just want to
post
hear
it
more
below.
about the entire enrollment process in general. Like what?
It's an application.
No, I mean just why you would do it, what it
Oh,
looks
the
like, how
mental-
long.
Supernaturalness.
I
Which
want
is-
to. Well, I do want to say one thing really quick, and then we can continue on with it. I do want to say that we are not advocating that we are making doctors or medicine related people through our school. I'm saying as an example, if you were to go into midwifery through Bethel, that you could partner with somebody just as much as you could partner with an artist who wants to do prophetic art and be. I think the end goal in general is ministry and being pastoral when you graduate from the school. So we are not saying that it's an easy way to get your midwifery, come to BSSM for 3 years. No, not at all. It's more of like you're shadowing to see how we would do midwifery, and then you still have to get your credential. You still have to be approved by the medicine board. You still have to say, yes, I've gone through my midwifery school, as well as I went through
I
this
just
and I
see it
shadowed
as like an
somebody.
extra tack
Does that
on.
make
The whole adding on 3 years is kind of confusing because the only tangible thing that they're guaranteeing you is the spiritual part of it, which what in the world are you learning spiritually in the school that you can't learn in the church for free? You can't pay for spiritual powers. So that's where I'm like, okay, well, if
That
you're
is
not
a
getting a
huge debate.
doctrine,
Right.
if you're not getting a doctrine in something, if you're not getting a degree in something, and so you're guaranteeing spiritual powers, which you're not guaranteeing spiritual powers. What is this?
And what is
Okay,
the money from the
so-
tuition even going towards? And
That's
here's
a good
here's where I
question.
want to know so much more, and I think it's just so incredibly interesting to like dive into all these topics. When we get together on this next subject, we are going to be talking about, like I said, the socioeconomic end of how much they penetrate, and I need to quit saying they, but how much Bethel Church kind of penetrates the different aspects of how Reading runs in our government, to everything to the music that we hear at
The
our
small
concerts.
business community.
Yeah, and to the people who raise rent around here, all kinds of things. But it's just so interesting, and I would love to also bring up then, like, what is the tuition being put forward? What is all this? And like I said, if you know and you have better answers, put them below, because we we really are interested in this topic. I think a lot of people in Reading are.
I agree.
And I love that you come here today to like be open and honest. I wish that my first interactions with someone from Bethel would have been through you.
Oh,
That would have made
thanks.
That would have made me feel a lot different in my first interactions with Bethel. So if you guys need like a cover girl, this is I'm just saying
She's doing your community a lot of good,
Thank you.
and you did not approach us.
No,
Yeah,
she
With
didn't
no
approach us.
consent, and you did not freak anyone out. You know, so that's good.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
So we'll get back to you guys on this next subject. Again, any questions, even if they're not related to the socioeconomic end, ask us, because we're here to have fun. We're here to answer all the weird crap, including the poo hole loophole, right? Is that
Yes,
what it's called?
poop hole
Loophole. All right, guys. We love you. Please, again, like and subscribe down below, and we will catch you on the next episode. Bye. Say bye, everybody. Bye, everybody.
You did it this time.
Like and subscribe if you know what's good for you.